So the Patriots are in this tough spot entirely of their own making, right? Because A, they kind of need to get Tom Brady back. And they've structured this thing in such a way that he's going to hit free agency unless they can extend him before free agency. And there's no way that's going to happen until he proves, or they prove to him, that they're capable of actually giving him some people who can get open, lest he look like crap like he did this season. For all of Brady's, what does he want? I don't think he wants to be made look like an idiot because the rest of the people around him can't hold up their end of the bargain.
Yeah.
So the Patriots need to find receiving help, and they need to do it pretty quickly in such a way that they can bring him back once they've done it. Now, their receiving core is such a mess, having sort of swung and missed on a few of those, high risk, low or high reward, high risk additions to the receiving core. So the Antonio Browns, the Josh Gordons, none of them worked out this time. The N'Keal Harry's hasn't worked out yet. So they're left with Julian Edelman and a bunch of nobodies. So I think that they need to attack that position or the positions with receiver and tight end in multiple different ways. Like one guy is not fixing this problem. They need to actually attack multiple different spots. And I think the good news is that this is actually a good offseason to need that, right? Because I think there's a lot of guys potentially available. The first one is the Patriots have this history of not using the draft and actually trading, commodity for proven NFL veterans already, right? Which puts some names on the table that wouldn't be there for most teams. So, number 23, would that get you a Stephon Diggs from the Minnesota Vikings? Now,
Mr. Cryptic Tweeter.
Diggs is interesting because this is like going on a year plus of him seemingly agitating for a move out of Minnesota, right? On the other hand, he might just be one of these people that's kind of a little bit crazy and tweets bullshit, right? And it's like, well, look, what is he trying to say here?
The Patriots already tried that with Antonio Brown.
Right. Like maybe he's just tweeting crap and this is what he does, right? At the very minimum, he isn't actively diffusing the idea that he wants out of Minnesota. At the maximum, he wants out of Minnesota, and therefore the Vikings might be willing to deal him.
By the way, the history of New England, they brought Randy Moss in via trade, Wes Welker through trade, both the same year, obviously.
Cooks.
And then Brandon Cooks. But here's like the tricky part of the way the Patriots do business. On one hand, the Cooks deal was actually genius. They traded a first-round pick, got a year of service out of him, and then traded him for another first-round pick. So they basically got a free year of service out of him, exchanging, and getting their first-round pick back. On the other hand, there's always that risk with, their receiving core since they got rid of him since 2018 and 19 has not been good, which was similar to earlier in Brady's career. They get rid of Deion Branch, and it kind of took them 2 years before they brought Moss and Welker in to kind of replace him. So they like to kind of play the value game, roll the dice. But then there's also points when they realize, hey, we really need to make a move here and then bring people in. So they've kind of worked both ways on that. That's where I could see a guy like Diggs.
You could make the argument that the Patriots have basically just fundamentally undervalued the wide receiver position for a while now, and it's caught up with them. Now,
they're like, Tommy will carry it, and he'll make do with who we have.
And they've made moves, as you say, in the past to they've made acute moves to fix the issue short term, but they've always looked long term to we don't really need to pay them. So the Cooks thing, right? You make the first round pick, the first round trade, you get Cooks, it transforms your offense, and it's like, well, we can get it back. Let's get rid of him. We can replace that. And you couldn't. You haven't yet. So it's still a problem. Maybe at some point you need to do the whole look. You need to do a Stephon Gilmore, right? And say, look, at some point, this is one of the most important positions in the game. This is the guy we need to pay market-setting money for. They haven't yet, and I don't think they're going to, which is why I'm looking at guys like Diggs, another couple of people that might be available for trade. How much would the Browns take for Odell Beckham right now? That was supposed to be this amazing connection. Mayfield, Odell Beckham. Now, look, Beckham was dealing with a sports hernia. He clearly wasn't 100% all last season. Everything in Cleveland went to hell last season. People lost their jobs at the end of the year because of it. You can definitely look at that and say, look, Stefanski's come in. There's a new regime. We think that this year it will be the realization of what we thought last year would be. We just put it off for a year while everything fell to pieces. On the other hand, you can look at what happened in the last 12 months and say there is no way that combination of personalities works together long term. It's just too many alpha type personalities trying to, pull in different directions. So if somebody came in and said, hey, what would you think to number 23 in the draft for Odell Beckham?
Oh, I think the Browns would definitely take that at this point.
And for the Patriots
were already exploring.
And everything that was, all the positives of Odell Beckham are still there. Like, the guy is still one of the most talented receivers in the game. Multiple seasons with a PFF grade over 90. For a period of 3 years, he led all receivers in broken tackles after the catch. The guy has incredible talent and should function in that Patriots offense. Plus, they only have the one personality to try and diffuse, not 3 or 4 of them.
And I think, the guys that you've mentioned so far, Diggs, Odell Beckham, and the third guy that you wrote about, Keenan Allen from the Chargers, all guys that are good route runners, guys that can win on the outside, guys that can win in the slot. Basically really good. They're really good receivers all around, but they're also different. Like an Alshon Jeffrey contested catch type is not the type of guy you want to give Tom Brady. They drafted.
I honestly
Harry.
love the Stephon Diggs fit. I think if they could make that happen, that would transform this receiving core. The other thing is, so Diggs, you know how many times he saw double-digit targets this year? The one just gone?
Once.
Yes. Bearing in mind that Thielen didn't play for a bunch of them.
Right.
A bunch of those games.
It was crazy. Yeah, they would make him a high-volume option.
And the game where he got that, 7 catches for 163 yards or 67 and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So, if you feed that guy high volume, he produces. And the Patriots would do that a lot. Plus, he wins in every conceivable way. He wins with route running. He wins with speed. He has, in the last 3 years, I think, the best contested catch rate of any receiver in the NFL. He would be an absolute beast in that offense. Plus, I can't remember who it was that said it on the broadcast, but it was defenses respect Adam Thielen, but Diggs is the guy that scares them. For all the production difference or whatever between the two of them, Diggs is the one that defenses are scared by.
Yeah, he wins at every level. He wins in contested situations. He's a good route runner. He's good he is good at all those things. That is something you could say the same for with OBJ at his best. Keenan Allen, maybe not as well-rounded as those guys, but maybe the best pure route runner.
That's my third option.
Yeah, no, I already gave it away.
Yeah.
It's at PFF.com.
Okay. Keenan Allen wins with separation. I think this one is a little more debatable as to whether he's even available. This would rely on the Chargers essentially saying, Phillip Rivers is gone. We're moving on from him. We might be drafting a rookie at 6, are they? And even if we are, we think that it's not going to be, the timeline isn't going to mesh. So we're going to cash in on Keenan Allen, potentially draft a new wide receiver in this great receiving class, and have the 2 young guys develop at the same time, rather than have the rookie developing with an aging Keenan Allen. You know what I mean? Or they might be prepared to move on from that and sort of start again more conclusively.
You worked under the assumption that they're trying to build around Tom Brady, bring Brady back and all that stuff. But they could also move on from Tom Brady, and they still need to make similar moves. They still have some issues. What if they signed Phillip Rivers and brought his friend Keenan Allen into New England? Now this is like playing Madden. This is fantasy type stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I assume Brady's going to be back. The tricky part about the timing of all this is obviously free agencies before the draft. So it's not like they can, instill confidence in Tom with 4 draft picks.
Correct.
And then Brady's a free agent at the same time as all these guys. Mm-hmm. So some sort of trade would have to happen ahead of time.
Yeah.
So I think, for Brady to come back to New England, he needs some sort of evidence that the situation's going to be better.
Yeah. So it
almost has to be a trade, right?
Well, it's trade or free agency, right? I assume Brady's not going to sign within the first 24 hours of free agency. So if you make a move early, you can at least convince him. And I think there's some decent free agent options as well. So AJ Green is a guy that we haven't really mentioned who might be a trade candidate because the Bengals could tag and trade him rather than just let him walk out of the building. Yeah. Green, I think, I think he'd be a good fit in New England. I think he'd cost a lot. Yeah. I think his problem is that he's still one of the higher echelon guys. So I don't think, because of what we talked about, that I don't think they value the position this way. I don't think they're going hard after Amari Cooper, who is the marquee receiver name in free agency, who's going to command the Stephon Gilmore contract. I don't think they're going to do that with Cooper. And for the same reason, I don't think they'll go after A.J. Green, because as much as he's older, et cetera, I think he's still going to command monster money.
I think Green is the guy they kick the tires on just in case the league has all devalued him at the same time.
Yeah,
Said, you're
like if he's still
you haven't
around,
played, he's all banged up, over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And then they would swoop in and try to grab one of those.
If he's somehow still around like a week and a half into free agency because the market on him is soft, then I could see them swooping in. But they're not going to match, $15 million a year for him.
The thing about those like second tier free agent contracts, the appeal in New England previously was take a little less money. Here's your chance to win a Super Bowl. Finish your career here. You get to play with Tom Brady and all that stuff. Have they completely lost that selling point? They're no longer the big dog in the AFC, competing with the Chiefs, the Ravens, whole bunch of other teams on the rise. Brady's not even completely locked up. If there is a, lower contract opportunity for an A.J. Green, is it even as appealing as it was 5 years ago?
Well, it's not as appealing, but I don't think they've lost the thing. Their problem is that it's like, hey, take a little bit less money, you play with Tom Brady, you get to win another Super Bowl, and the guy's like, okay, and when will Tom be arriving here? Because at the moment, Tom's a free agent. So that is their problem.
It's a harder sell.
It's not that, that whole concept is lost draw. I think that would still sell people. It's that, you can't really, at the moment, you're selling something you don't have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't have Brady under contract. So this idea of take a little bit less money, Tom Brady will be the reason we win Super Bowls. You're like, well, okay, but you don't have Brady. So at the moment, you're just asking me to take less money. But I think there's a few cheaper free agent options that are interesting. Emmanuel Sanders is obviously not a long-term solution, but then neither is Brady. So Sanders still getting it done despite wrecking his Achilles a couple of years ago, dominating. Had like a top 20 grade this season despite being traded. Made a clear difference to the 49ers passing offense when he arrived. I think he'd be another really good. He's kind of similar to Stephon Diggs in terms of the way he wins. A lot of quality in him. I think he'd be a good fit there. Hunter Henry is available at tight end.
That's the guy I think New England.
So here's the thing.
Really interested in.
All of the free agent tight ends are basically the same, right? They're all talented receiving options who have massive injury red flags. Whether it's Hunter Henry, Tyler Eifert, Jordan Reed, they're all incredible.
All those guys. Eric Ebron and Austin Hooper.
Well, they're just not great. But the ones that are actually talented are the ones that have massive injury red flags. Somebody is going to end up getting a steal because one of those guys is going to pan out. You know what I mean? They're going to go on a run where they don't get hurt for 2 or 3 years. And it's going to be, how did everyone miss on this guy? What were they thinking? How did they let the Patriots snag
I've expected Tyler Eifert to end up in New England for quite a while.
Same.
That does feel like the low risk,
I could see
high
Eifert.
upside opportunity.
I could see Henry as well.
And low risk meaning if they can get him for cheap money because of all the injuries. It's high risk because he's always hurt. But.
Right. So that's the thing. I don't know what the contract is going to be like on any of these tight ends because the talent is so big, but so is the injury.
Henry's still so young, and when he's been healthy, he looks like a top 5 receiving tight end.
Except last year, which is ironic because obviously that's the most recent piece of evidence. But Henry is a guy who can, obviously massively upgrade the bunch of stooges they had at the position this year.
Yeah, I think Henry's going to be coveted among tight ends.
One more name that intrigued me as a free agent, Brashad Perriman.
That doesn't seem like a fit at all for
Why not?
New England and the Patriots. I don't know that he's the most precision route runner.
Neither was Josh Gordon.
Yeah, but Gordon, you could trust to run.
You just compared.
Slants.
Yes, I did. I compared it.
You can run slants, posts,
Tell me
and goes.
Perriman isn't capable of running slants, posts, and goes. Get out of here.
Gordon wasn't. He's a good route runner. Gordon.
No,
they did. They weren't on the same page with
Here's
some
the thing,
stuff,
right?
But.
My point with all this stuff is you need multiple different options, right? Perriman is not the answer.
Right.
Having said that, Perriman can do a much better job of taking the top off of defense than Philip Dorsett can. And you don't have anybody doing that at the moment.
Yeah, to fill, say, a Philip Dorsett type role.
Perriman can be a viable deep threat in your offense. He was a pretty good contested catch guy this past season. He eliminated the drops problem, which was his issue in Cleveland and Baltimore, and he made some big plays. I'm saying that of all the options, this guy I don't think is going to be a highly coveted. He's going to sign somewhere for 1 year, $7 million. You should definitely take that as a deal if you're the Patriots, because why the hell not?
Oh, yeah, and like a prove it again type year.
Right. 1 year, $7 million. You have a guy who should be able to take the top of your defense. If it craps out, all it cost you was $7 million worth of cap space, you're fine. You should absolutely be snagging that and adding one or two more other guys.
See, I think if they just got a Stephon Diggs, the trickle-down effect, you have Diggs and Edelman on the field. Okay, there's two trusted guys.
Yes.
It moves Mohamed Sanu down a peg.
Off the roster.
Well, I think Mohamed Sanu is a viable number 3 and a questionable number 2.
Well,
right?
So I would say you get Diggs, you get Edelman, you have N'Keal Harry, who they have to try and salvage this
I was
year.
going to get there, but
You should probably draft someone as well, at which point Mohamed Sanu is expendable.
yeah, but I still think a Sanu is a 3, and then Harry as a gadget player, or finally move him to the slot or like a big, a move tight end type of route tree for Harry. And then you still need to find a tight end. They cannot trot out the slowest tight ends in the NFL. Again, you still need to figure out something at tight end. So I think it's Diggs and a tight end, right? That combination could completely turn things around, make life attractive for Brady to come back in New England and have that one last go.
Yeah.
That's what I think. And now, and the draft, the tough part is you gave up a 2 for Sanu. And here we are, the guys that you listed in the draft, Brandon Ayuk and Jalen Reagor, KJ Hamler. Draft capital would be really useful.
It would be.
With this wide receiver class if you have that massive need this year.
It would. And I think because, like, obviously the Patriots are never picking up at the top, so that the very high-end guys, the CD Lambs, the Jerry Judys, Ruggs probably, they're all out of reach, right? So you're looking at this sort of second, third tier of guys. The good news is, I think, that because it's such a stacked receiver class, somebody's going to, fall.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going to have a really good player way lower down than you should have.
KJ Hill?
Yeah,
Ohio
somebody
State
like that.
nice.
And I think Ayuk's interesting, right? Because you would actually team him back up with N'Keal Harry, which would be kind of fascinating. They're the same class, right? They're both, like, Harry came out as a junior, Ayuk stayed as a senior.
Yep. And
looks at the time of coming out like a dramatically better prospect, which is intriguing because when they were both playing at the same time, Harry was the guy in that offense. He was getting all the targets. He was the one making all the plays, and Ayuk was a secondary dude. Then when he became the number one, like, he was a run after the catch threat. The guy's got incredible speed. He wins in a much more translatable manner, I think, than N'Keal Harry did. But it would just be kind of interesting putting them back in the same offense again a year later. And then, I think KJ Hamler would be pretty fascinating because, again, speed, right? A better version of Philip Dorsett, a guy with quicks and route running. Hands are a little bit unideal, but still, like, potentially available way lower down than some of these other guys, but brings that explosiveness, the thing that you don't have to this offense, which is guys that can run away from people and get the hell open.
Yeah, so I like your plan here. Now, the tricky part from a team building standpoint is you can't put all of your actual money and draft capital into just your playmakers. The defense they need to bring playmakers back there. They're losing, Joe Tooney's a free agent at left guard. They have to figure stuff out on the offensive line. So the Patriots have put themselves into a tough spot, and I think that's the consistent theme around the NFL. When you have a weakness that is a multi-year weakness, we've talked about this before, the Chargers offensive line and a few other players, the Falcons offensive line, Falcons pass rush. I mean, there's certain position groups that you feel like you're just, trying to fill every single year.
Yeah.
And that puts you in a tough spot.
I mean, it's not ideal.
UK, are they taking PTO today? Are they off?
I don't know.
That's bowling, right?
Yes, but look at the number.
Why are they bowling?
A 75?
Harley's never bowled before.
Like, are you even looking at the lane to bowl a 75?
Ian's a pro. It's pretty good. A 148's not that good, but
no.
Ian wins.
Yeah. So, right, they're in a tough spot. Look, this is not the ideal way. Like, throwing a colossal amount of resource at one position in one offseason is never an ideal strategy. It's an indication that you've left things get into an ugly state and you need to fix it quickly. Plus, it's only more acute because now you have a quarterback who is probably going to leave if you don't, or at least give him, pretty firm indications you're going to do that.
Right.
And you don't have a succession plan at that position either. So they're in this double, like, compounded position of, we need to fix receiver. One, because we don't have any receivers, and two, because the quarterback's going to leave if we don't. So, like, everything needs to go with this. In an ideal scenario, that's going to have knock-on effects of making other things worse. But the net result of that is going to be less of a problem if you fix receiver. Like, you're way better off fixing receiver knowing that it's going to have a detrimental effect somewhere else than you are not fixing receiver and just being screwed.
If you believe passing league, the Patriots have won all those games because they've got this baseline of success with their passing attack. Mm-hmm. That's it. And then the years that they've put it together, the defense has done a nice job and come together, and that's how you win. I do think, the more we study this stuff, I think first off, having an elite quarterback immediately makes your passing attack, rank in the top 10 or near the top of the league. Having good playmakers brings that even higher. And then having that passing attack gives you that baseline of winning a ton of games, unless you're really, really bad elsewhere. And then when it pairs with other parts of your roster being good, okay, now you're a championship caliber team. But it all starts with pass the ball, stop the pass, and they weren't passing the ball very well last year. So if they do look at this as a major weakness, then trade,
how could you
draft, free agency, they have to go all in on those components.
How could you not look at this as a major weakness? The absolute ceiling of 2020 in the passing game is bringing Brady back and getting exactly what you got out of him this year, probably minus 5% because he's 43 years old. He's not getting better next year. He's probably, slowly declining. And
you're very careful with that now.
Yeah. And if you don't give him better receiving weapons, you're not getting better. So you have to. It's that simple.
All right.
The only X factor in all that is N'Keal Harry, right? He's the guy with the first round talent, apparently, on the roster. Dude played, 270 snaps last year? Basically, injury robbed him of his entire rookie year. When he did get on the field, he couldn't separate to save his life. But who knows what year 2 Harry looks like? Maybe this is a guy that needed a year in the NFL system, healthy, gets himself, all I'm saying is we don't know what Harry will look like next year. Maybe he'll look better.
I think his best case scenario, if you're a Patriots fan, would be someone like Marvin Jones, who he could separate a little bit more than Harry, but Marvin Jones or Demaryius Thomas are the two guys we keep comping to, right? Where Marvin Jones wins a lot in contested situations. It is kind of his calling card, having those ball skills. Demaryius Thomas was the guy that he essentially ran slants, he ran go balls and back shoulders off of it, and he did well after the catch.
Yeah.
If you could maybe get that type of production if Harry improves in some areas. He's still not that explosive off the line, but maybe it was the injury stuff. But that's a lot of hoping for that rather than, building the other pieces around him.
Yeah.
So
I have much more confidence in his ability or the Patriots' ability to turn him into something if they're not relying on him being a number one to make it happen.
Right.
If your plan in 2020 is N'Keal Harry suddenly looks like a first-round player and everything's okay because that's the thing that has a knock-on effect, I think you're boned. If your plan is we can turn N'Keal Harry into a pretty good receiver because Stephon Diggs is now in the building and Julian Edelman is back to being a secondary option that doesn't have all the attention focused on him, and we've got James White, and we'll draft a tight end, and N'Keal Harry can suddenly be like an additional weapon, moving around the place. Now I think you've got something to work with. But if you're relying on him being the thing that catalyzes all these other improvements, I think you've got problems.
Yeah, that's risky.
You want to get rid of me and get back to more great PFF YouTube content? All you have to do is push that button right there and subscribe. Thanks for watching.